She was born into polygamy. Her family followed the teachings of Joseph Smith, including plural marriage. Like many young girls, she had been promised to a man who was her father's age. But she ran away. She chose hell over a life of polygamy. That girl was me. I was lost, alone, desolate. Then Jesus Christ found me and rescued me. In His love, I found real freedom. He is a shield to all who will take refuge in Him. This is why I can look back and ask, polygamy? What love is this? Welcome to Polygamy, What Love Is This? I am your host, Doris Hanson, and we talk about Mormon polygamy on our show, both early Mormon and present-day polygamy, and also about the founder of Mormon polygamy, Joseph Smith. But before we get started, I would just like to give a reminder for everyone who would like more information about the truth of polygamy in the Bible, or if you need help escaping from polygamy, you can contact a Shield and Refuge Ministry by telephone or by email. The contact information is on the screen, and you can call our toll-free number 877-425-9993 or email us. And of course, everything that we talk about will be held in complete confidence. If you want to make any comments about our show, or if you'd like to be a guest on our show, you can email us at whatloveisthis.tv, or you can call us at 385-240-2888. Our guest for today's show has a very special place in my heart. We've been friends for many years, and she has authored a book she's been working on for a long, long time, and it's just come off the printing press. Her book is entitled Secret Combinations, Evidence of Early Mormon Counterfeiting, 1800 to 1847. She holds a master's degree in philosophy from Stanford University and also a degree in nursing from BYU. She's published 3 previous books and researched this new book for over 8 years, I think close to 10 years, traveling across the United States, digging into state archives and court records and libraries. And she graciously agreed to come on our show and discuss this new book, and we'll be doing this in a 2-part interview. So I would like to introduce, and because she has been on our show in the past, I'd like to welcome back our special guest, Kathleen Kimball Milonakis.
Yes.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting me. It's wonderful to be here.
It's good to be here.
With my friend Doris.
And we've talked a lot through the years about your book. And first of all, it was a paper, and we talked about that, I think, the first time you were on the show.
Yes.
And now that
you've given me a lot of encouragement over the years.
A lot of people have. You've done a lot of work. And now you've got a 2-inch thick book. From just that paper, and it's awesome. It's a great book. It's just this week it's been come off the press.
Yep.
I noticed your middle name is Kimball.
Yes.
So does that mean you've got a pioneer polygamist heritage from Heber C. Kimball?
Well, it actually does. Yes, my father was Heber C. Kimball IV, and he was directly descended from the Heber C. Kimball that was one of the co-founders of the Mormon Church. But his wing of the family was the wing that continued to practice polygamy after it was banned in 1890, and they considered that, his family considered that they should adhere to the original teachings of Joseph Smith and Brigham Young, so they kept practicing it, and I saw a lot of trouble and suffering and just there's real horrors in polygamy.
It is very much so.
It is not a good system, and so that was what started me going.
Started you on this. Does there seem to be a lot of pride in your family heritage of both your name and also that polygamy is in your past? Is there much of that?
I haven't been in touch with a lot of my relatives since my father died in 1971. My mother kind of moved away from that part of the family, but I've always had them in my heart. I've always, I grew up with my cousins that I dearly loved, and I have a lot of family that's in the mainstream Mormon church also. Someone introduced me as Mormon royalty, but I don't claim that title.
Well, you don't claim it, but
No,
others would with
I
that
really
name.
don't.
You definitely they
Especially
would.
what I
Yeah,
found out.
yeah, that's for
I
sure.
yeah.
And that's what we're going to discuss tonight or today is what you found out in preparing and making preparations for the book.
Yeah.
At the very beginning of your book, you have a quote from Socrates that says, "Follow where the evidence leads."
Exactly.
And that's kind of what the idea, your foundation for your book. You found something and you kept looking and found more and more and more, and pretty soon you got a book. Is that
Well, yeah, I wanted to know about polygamy. First of all, that was what really piqued my curiosity. Is this from God? And so I firmly believe in investigating important questions that your life is built on. Don't leave it to chance. Don't accept somebody else. Investigate it. And I went to the university. I was trained in philosophy. I learned about how to evaluate truth claims. And, our whole lives are built on, is something true or not?
right?
It matters in everyday
Truth
matters.
matters, you bet.
And of course, it matters most of all in what happens to us eternally and our whole purpose for being here.
Exactly.
Yeah, I that's one of my core beliefs. If I'm curious about something, or if I need to know something, I investigate it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Check it out.
yes, you can find out from reputable sources. You can test it out in your life, and that's what you should do. In fact, Jesus told us to do that, especially about prophets. He said, test people that claim to be prophets.
Yes. And so
Over
you
and over in
tested
the
Joseph
scriptures.
Smith and found out some interesting things about him.
Ah, yes. And about my illustrious grandfather.
You mentioned that you were trained in critical thinking, which in schools, universities, you have to know critical thinking. But
Yeah.
I've discovered both in polygamy groups and some very mainstream faithful Mormons, they don't do critical thinking when it comes to their religion.
No, it's awfully easy to take something on authority, or someone that you believe is an authority, or just to see how you feel about it. But that is not the best way to know if something's true.
Exactly.
Feelings do not tell you if it's truth, and it never says in the scriptures that you will feel
Right.
the Holy Spirit either. The Holy Spirit dwells in you, but it's not a feeling. You can fall in love with many different belief systems. You can fall in love with Marxism, you can fall in love with Buddhism, you can fall in love with Islam, but that doesn't make them true.
That's right.
You must check it out. You must investigate. You must test. And the Bible, I
tells us to
found,
do that.
yeah, I found after many years of searching that it does stand up to
It stands up to
investigated
investigation.
tests, of history,
does.
of archaeology, of other sources in that time. We recently got back from Israel. We saw the places where Jesus walked. We saw how he changed the world
Yeah.
like no other human being ever, no other
Right,
person.
exactly.
So,
So let's get on page 13. I want to quote something
Okay.
that you wrote from page 13. You said, others have told the story of Smith's heroism in pioneering the West, missionary triumphs, political difficulties, and polygamy. I tell the story of Mormon origins in secret, oath-bound counterfeiting networks. I tell how secret counterfeiting affected what happened to the Mormon people and helped lead to Joseph and Hiram's assassinations in the Carthage jail. So you're telling you're not doing what anybody else have done. You're doing your own story, and that is the counterfeiting that the Smith family was involved in. Is this the first work that's been published on the Smiths counterfeiting, the early Mormon counterfeiting?
yes, it is. It's the only one so far that's just really focused on that aspect of it. And, as I said, I started looking into polygamy, and these references to counterfeiting kept cropping up when I was reading all the documents. And I wondered, is this just a side story, or could this have been more of a central part of the whole story? And I found so much that indicated to me that they had been in counterfeiting long before they ever brought out the Book of Mormon.
Wow.
Joseph Smith Sr. was arrested twice in Vermont for being, for passing counterfeit money, and he escaped the penalty by telling on his other counterfeiters.
Oh, wow.
But there it is in the Vermont Supreme Court records, and so then I found out that he probably was associated with this character named Ransford Rogers, who was also doing some very questionable things to do with money digging, and I found in my research that money digging and counterfeiting were very highly related. They were the same people that were doing the money digging were often doing the counterfeiting.
It's a deception. It's the same kind of a deception.
Yes, and they used it as a cover. They would get people to invest in their money digging scheme,
Yeah.
and meanwhile they're passing counterfeits on the side, the name disorderly person and imposter was also very frequently associated with people that were passing counterfeits.
Wow.
So
Must have been at some time
it's the
there.
first book that deals with it. Refiner's Fire by John L. Brooke also gave me a lot of leads about it, and that sparked my curiosity. So I said, I'm going to look into this, and it just ended up being
Did a lot of digging, a lot of hard work.
a 10-year project.
Yeah, that's and a lot of traveling back and forth. How's your work been received by others? Have you?
Well,
any
I've worked
feedback
with
yet?
other historians all along, Sandra Tanner and Marco Marquardt and Grant Palmer and Will Bagley. They've been invaluable in helping me to, know where to go to find things and giving me advice and encouragement. So I haven't done it alone. I've, worked with other historians, and the jury's still out. I mean, I've been told that it's a riveting story by those that have read it, some of them, some of my friends, and
So it's going to take a few weeks then before some
But
real
it's
good
just-
feedback begins, because it's
it's
really,
just
really,
barely out. Just
It is
newly
a very
out, so.
good. It's fast paced and it's very good. You got a lot of information in there. All the footnotes, all the footnotes that anybody could need.
Yeah, I put them
for
right at the
this.
bottom of the page, so you can tell every source that I got
Yeah.
from the information.
You write on page 14 that Joseph Smith had clerks, he employed clerks that supposedly recorded his activities. And he explained why on page 14, I quote, he said, "Therefore my enemies cannot charge me with any day, time, or place, but what I have written testimony to prove my actions, and my enemies cannot prove anything against me." Well, lots have been proven against him. For one thing, 34 wives has been, even though he denied it. But this implies that he would always have had substantial alibis if he needed them. So perhaps it was for pre-planned schemes like polygamy and so on. Did he instruct his clerks and others to omit certain activities from official history?
Well, he must have, because they very important big parts of the story were left out. They did not record that they started an illegal bank in Ohio.
But history other places has it recorded.
Right, but it was in newspapers, and it was in letters, and then we have the bank papers that they drew up. We have all kinds of records about it, but it was not in the official history.
Right.
And he did not record the activities of the Danites. Did not ever say that they had started that secret group. They didn't. Very little was put in the official history about polygamy. In fact, it was only hinted at or veiled, secretly veiled. But yet there's all kinds of records of the polygamy. It's in the temple records.
Right.
And so the counterfeiting was left out too, but traces of it survived. It was in the Nauvoo City Council notes. It was in the Danite Manifesto in Missouri.
So you're not just digging up randomly information. You have concrete evidence that there was counterfeiting involved with Joseph Smith, his cronies, and the early Mormon Church.
Yes, Joseph Smith himself published in the Danite Manifesto with Sidney Rigdon and Hiram Smith and 80 other Danites they all signed it. They published in a public document that his former partners, Oliver Cowdery, David Whitmer, and Luke S. Johnson, witnesses to the Book of Mormon and an apostle, were guilty of counterfeiting, and they laid out all these amazing details. So how did he know about all the details of them being in with the Tinker's Creek Blacklegs, they called them, unless he was also in the network, because they only worked in networks in those days, and you had to be part of the secret group to know the inside information of counterfeiting, because it was very dangerous to talk to anybody about counterfeiting that wasn't in the network with your secret signs. So he must have instructed them to leave those out, but yet they still remain.
Yeah, it still remains, and that is how you got your information. On page 34, I quote, "Counterfeiting and criminal networks pose more of a problem in early America than most people realize." So let's grab the larger picture here, and then we zero in onto the Smith family's counterfeiting.
Okay.
Explain how the criminal culture was inherited from England and why it was so easily prospered in early America.
Well, yeah, it was fascinating to me. Most people don't realize that it was a problem. You go to a new continent and set up institutions of civilization, and of course, a stable currency is a necessity. It's very important for the economy. But there was the evangelical majority, and then there were these radical fringe groups on the side that often the leader posed as a preacher or some other prophet or respected figure, and then underneath they were having their accomplices do shady things, counterfeiting money, passing it on unsuspecting victims, picking people's pockets, stealing people's horses, and so it was a capital crime in most jurisdictions, or many, in England and in America. It was considered treason. And Joseph Smith was accused of treason both in Missouri and in Illinois. It was only part of what he was doing as treason, but it was a tremendous problem, and you can read all about it
in your book. There's a lot of great information in there about all the details that someone would want to know is certainly in there. You write that the counterfeiters and the counterfeit rings that the Smith family were involved in didn't work in groups of just one or two or three people, that numerous people had to be involved with it or in it, and so they developed secret oaths that were required for their protection. So explain what these secret oaths were all about, and is that what the word secret combinations is referring to in the title of your book?
Absolutely. You had to be in a large organization to be able to counterfeit money back then. Right now, now we think of counterfeiters as one or two people printing off dollars in their secret apartments or, off their computers. No, in the olden days, you had to have a CEO kind of boss that headed up the operation, that was the front person, that was, posed as a respectable person. Then you had to have clerks that were sly and obtaining engraving plates that could cost hundreds of dollars. You had to get somebody, if you were doing paper money, to get a printing press. That could cost $2,000, which is a huge amount of money back then.
Yeah.
Then you had to have people forging the names on the banknotes. Then you had to have people distributing it, which were often peddlers, and taking it to parts far and wide. And these counterfeiting networks covered many states lots of times, and so you had to have the runner that would pass it, and then you had to have buyers that would buy the counterfeit money with good money, or would trade
So did they all
trade
know
your horse.
who each other were and what each other was doing, and what
Well,
part
they-
did the Smiths play?
And
in
then
that?
they had the passers that passed it off on people. But you had to have your secret signs of recognition, because if you went up to the wrong person, you'd be in trouble. You could get turned into the law.
Yeah.
So they had their secret signs and signs of recognition. But you couldn't do it alone. You had to be oath bound, and you had to swear upon pain of your life not to rat on your buddies or to go to the authorities with any information, because if one person was caught, of course the authorities would put a lot of pressure on them
Right.
to tell about
Find
the whole
everyone.
organization, just like the mafia.
Yeah, so they would have to protect each other that way with those secret oaths that they would die before they would give out any information, evidently.
Right, but more often than not, the person that got caught would reveal who his compatriots were, because he didn't want to go to jail.
Yeah, or
Not
somebody else was
sometimes
doing.
not, but the oath-bound, secret promise was all important, and you were, you would be really punished by your compatriots if you broke your oath.
Yeah. And then we're going to
So-
get into masonry a little bit later, but this oath taking is big with the masonry and with even the present day, what's going on inside the temples. But we'll get into that in a little bit later. But you wrote something that Daniel Kidder said, because we're going to go now from counterfeiting money to
Okay.
counterfeiting the Bible. Okay? And this is what he said, and I quote, "The Book of Mormon is the most successful attempt ever made to counterfeit the scriptures." And then on page 100 of your book, going down a little bit further, you sum up the whole thing by saying that Vermont provided fertile ground for what would become the Book of Mormon. So would you explain these comments in context?
Yeah, it's a long story, and you can read about it, but I found that it was very important that Hiram Smith attended the Moore's Academy, which was the prep school for Dartmouth College. He learned a tremendous amount at that time about the ideas that were going around among the intellectuals, one of which was that the Native Americans had come over from the Old World. And there was a man named Solomon Spaulding who wrote a book similar, had some features that were, Solomon Spaulding made the boast that he could write a burlesque of the Bible and have it be passed off as real history,
Wow.
except, everyone would believe it except for the learned historians. So, and then I found, which was shocking to me, that Joseph Smith Sr. made the very same boast, according to the Vermont militia people.
Oh, my word.
I mean,
So it's almost like it was planned, that somebody took him up on the challenge and came up with counterfeit scriptures in the Book of Mormon.
Well,
With these Native Americans being who they're not, according to the claims in the Book of Mormon.
if he made that boast that that he could write a book that would be believed by everybody as history, and so I mean, you just have to look at what he wrote.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. Why would he do that?
Well, time is running short, so let's let's go to the next one.
Okay.
Where you mentioned that Alvin and Joseph and Hiram, who were all brothers, were involved in helping people find lost or stolen goods with the Seer stone. And then they would find these lost or stolen goods, which were actually what they did was they stole the property from the people and then bury it and then tell them that they could find it, which was part of their deceit in that. Then they would use the same seer stone to translate the Bible. I mean, it's like
The Book of Mormon.
or the Book of Mormon, excuse me, like paying homage to deceit from the devil and words from God from the same rock.
Well, David Whitmer, witness to the Book of Mormon, said that Joseph Smith used the seer stone to translate the Book of Mormon. Now, he's the witness to the Book of Mormon, so he should know, right?
Well, yeah.
But I traced in my investigation that Joseph Smith used the seer stone to do these tricks on people for at least 7 years before he started the Book of Mormon. And it was the same trick that Stephen Burroughs used, which he was a big-time master counterfeiter that the Smith family also were familiar with in Vermont. He had also gone to Dartmouth College. This Stephen Burroughs character, and I tell all about it in the first chapter.
So you connect all these people
Yeah.
as big part of
But he used the same methods of stealing something hiding it, and then charging the people to tell them where it is. With the Seer stone, acting like he has magic powers. Mm-hmm. And Stephen Burrows did that. William Challoner did that. He was a major counterfeiter. That's how you started out.
So very quickly, we're again very getting close to the end of the time. First of all, and then we'll talk about where people can buy your book. Should our viewers from Mormonism or polygamy should they be shocked at this information?
Well, I would think so. I mean, Joseph Smith has been revered as next to Jesus Christ in virtue, and when you really see the historical records, when great historians, for instance, Lord Acton said that the documents tell the story of history. Mm-hmm. That's what tells us, what really happened. The records that people left, not the myths that grow larger over time.
So where can they find your book? We only have a minute.
Okay, they can find it at utlm.org, amazon.com, Benchmark Books in Salt Lake City, and Calvary Chapel bookstore in Murray.
And we don't have that on the screen because that's just new that you were able to count it there. And our viewers can contact you by mail or email?
Yeah, you can also get the PDF version of it on mormoncounterfeiting.com. Or you can contact me at researchinglds.org. Or .com, sorry.
Researchinglds at gmail.com.
At gmail.com, yeah.
And then you have the mormoncounterfeiting.com is
my website.
Your website.
That you can also get the PDF version there. Buy the print book from Sandra Tanner at her bookstore or Benchmark or Calvary Chapel.
Okay. Well, thanks. We're gonna continue this. We're out of time right now, but we're going to continue this discussion. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
And the second part is as good as or better, I think, than the first. Mormonism, polygamy, and the United Order, all of it stands or falls on the credibility of Joseph Smith. History continues to prove over and over again that Joseph Smith just wasn't credible. Besides that, we're not supposed to follow men. We're supposed to follow Jesus. Jesus wasn't just an imperfect man who made mistakes. His credibility was perfect because he never failed. And the Bible constantly reminds us that there's only one way, and that way is through Jesus Christ. When Jesus was present, God spoke from heaven and said, "This is my beloved Son, hear ye him." He did not also add, "and hear ye Joseph Smith too." It's only Jesus we follow, and Jesus only, because he's everything you need. So see you next time for part 2 of our interview with Kathleen Milonakis. God bless.